Hello, in this video I'll be demonstrating the new generative AI capabilities within VantagePoint. This new tool is called vantagenAI. Once you've installed VantagePoint and activated with the vantagenAI capable registration code, you'll see a new button on the Home tab called vantagenAI. Clicking it will open up this new UI. Here we have a set of 8 skills that you can use right out of the gate with just a click of a button: Summarize, Compare, 5-year forecast, SWOT Analysis, Blue Ocean Analysis, Hype Cycle, Michael Porter Diamond Analysis, and Whitespace Analysis. These all use the context in the file that you're working in. So if I were to do a summarize, it asks, do I want to use all records? In some cases I may have a selection of records that I want to run it on. I'll demonstrate that in a moment. Go ahead and say all records, and then it'll generate a summary of my data set. In this case, I'm working on a smartwatch file. As we go back into vantagenAI, we wait on a response, and here it's generated a nice summary of the data, central themes, key terms with their definitions, and some follow-up questions that I may ask. Another thing I may want to do is run a comparison. In this case, I would want to compare 2 organizations. So I'll open up an organization field, ultimate parent, and do Samsung and Apple as my selection, and then run the comparison skill. This will ask me, do I want to, confirming my selection, compare Samsung and Apple, and then compare. And in this case, my context window is using this 112 records that I have loaded in rather than the full data set. Going back into vantagenAI, I can wait on a response here, and you can see I've been given a quick reminder of what I just did, comparing Samsung and Apple, 112 records. You can also see my previous run here, summarizing all records in the data set, 1,086 records. Now as the response comes in, I see a central theme of the data set, themes from Samsung and Apple, and then similarities, differences, and then again follow-up questions. Alright, continuing on, let's take a look at the SWOT analysis. Now this one is a little bit different in that we want to select an organization to base our SWOT analysis around. So in this case, I will select Apple. Let me do it in the ultimate parent field and click run. So in this case, I've got Samsung selected here. So if I wanted to use the Samsung records to analyze this or to run the SWOT analysis, I would say use selection, but I really want to get Apple's data in as well. So I could go back and cancel and run just on Apple, but getting the full breadth of the data is helpful in these SWOT analyses. So I will use all records here. So this will take the full data set, not just the 70 records, and run a SWOT analysis from the perspective of Apple. And here we get a response back. So here's our SWOT analysis. Again, I did select all records, so it's all 1,086 records, and it is focusing the analysis on Apple. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and sometimes when you get a response, you'll see something like this with underlying text here. This is a link back into the VantagePoint records themselves. So here I have 41 records that match something within this block. And in this case, it's looking for physiological sensing from Apple. So it'll show me these records. I can add them to a group. I can click into the individual record and load those in and see what they're about. So pretty handy for quickly getting real grounded data and make sure they're verifying results and that sort of thing. You'll see those pop up from time to time. So we could also ask follow-up questions on this data. So how are competitors addressing the challenge of motion artifacts? And what can we learn from their approaches? So we've gotten a response back, an answer to our question, and it will again mention that we're working on the 1086 records because that's what I defined in this session as 1086. If I wanted to, I could go back, and if I was working in this session, it would be looking at the 112 selected records, and it's using my previous question and answer, in this case the SWOT analysis and the answer that we've gotten back, and using that as a basis for how to answer this question as well. So this will be answered with the mindset of a SWOT analysis. Okay, let's try another one. We'll run the 5-year forecast. Do I want to run it on Samsung? Yeah, sure, that sounds good. So in this case, I'm running on the 70 Samsung records, not the full set. We have a response. Okay, so we've gotten a forecast back. So looking at short-term outlook, medium-term. We could do a longer term. This is just 5-year, but you could ask separately another question. What does it look like 20 years down the road, 50, that kind of thing. And especially if you've already started from the 5-year forecast, you could get some interesting results that way. So it's got some implications. And again, this is a 5-year forecast for Samsung's data. It's not from the perspective of Samsung, but it's focusing on what Samsung's outlook. Again, we've got the links back to records. Maybe these are some interesting records to look at, or I got them to a group to look at later. And then thinking longer term, what if we asked, what about a 50-year forecast? So this will take that same data, using the same idea that we just gave it. We've got the 5-year forecast. This is the kind of response we got. We should get a similar type of answer for 50 years. While a precise 50-year forecast is highly speculative, that's good. We do tell our LLM, do not make things up. Do not make predictions that you can't base in fact. So it's telling you right off the bat this is going to be a bit of speculation here. So we do get some interesting answers, and we still do get some links back to the data for things that maybe are related to this future path forward. Let's do a Whitespace analysis. So now I will click Whitespace, and again, this is another one from the perspective of an organization. I've got all of my organization fields here, so I'll just pick one from these. Let's go Aura Health. Go ahead and run it. And no, I actually don't want to run it on Samsung. I want to use all records. Back into Vantagen. And the Whitespace analysis for Aura Health. Okay, so we've got our response back, and again, it's on the 1086 records, full data set on smartwatch. It is a Whitespace analysis, so it will mention Whitespace opportunities, points out all of the, or points out a few different Whitespace areas, explains why it's a gap, explains the market significance and strategic recommendations, and it does, in this case it did 3, may do more, maybe less. It just kind of depends on the data. You'll notice that there aren't any record links here. Since it is a white space, it's focusing on things that aren't necessarily in the data, so less likely to pick up those kinds of things. Okay, so within just a few minutes, I've generated a summary, a comparison of 2 organizations, a SWOT analysis, generated a 5-year forecast and a 50-year forecast, and then run this Whitespace. Now that I've generated all these reports, I may want to export them out to Word, so we have this export to docx button. So bring up a file save. So I will call this smartwatch. Save. Now all of my reports that I've generated are in there, as well as my record links, my record references, so I can reference back to those at any time. All of these chat history session is saved to the VPT file, so anytime I load this up, if I share it with somebody else and they have Vantagen, they could also see this. Until I have cleared chat history. Once you clear chat history, it's removed from the VPT. I could also delete sections. I could delete individual messages as well. Otherwise, they remain in your history unless you explicitly remove them. Thanks for watching. Looking forward to showing you more with vantagenAI.